Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Welcome back to another episode of What We Learned This Week. I, as you may have noticed, am not Jeremiah O'Shan. I am Tim Ostlund-Foss, and for this week's episode, I am joining Niko Moreno to, really discuss the Tigres game and the upcoming Tigres game. Niko, how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Tim? Audience, family, is under a heart. Always excited to be on. I'm coming to you live. Well, not live because we're going to record this, but I am live right now at this particular moment in the Palouse, about 5 minutes away from WSU campus. And, we had to make this show happen. It is something that I was very adamant about. I told Jeremiah that although he was leaving, we knew that Tim could handle, of course, the load. And me, myself, trying to not get in trouble there with the family here at the Palouse, but there's just a lot to talk about. I want to hear from Tim. I want you to talk me off the edge of some stuff. I'm still positive about, still feel a little positive about what could happen at Lumen. So we got plenty to talk about, Big Tim.
Yeah, we're recording virtually. Central Washington and the Central District coming together. The big thing to talk about today, obviously, is the loss against Tigres 2-0. Obviously not a good result. Certainly could have been a lot worse. At the same time, there were a couple plays that, if the goalkeeper doesn't make the save or the Sounders player gets a little bit better touch, maybe it's 2-1, but they missed a penalty, had a shot go off the crossbar, easily could have been 3 or 4-0. We saw some interesting changes to the starting lineup. I think that's where things started. That's where maybe the conversation should start. We saw no Jesus Ferreira, bit of a surprise with the Pauls on the wings and Albert Rusnak starting centrally. Niko, what were your thoughts initially when you saw that lineup come out?
Look, it was hard to understand, and having days to process a Brian Smetzer whose answer was very vague, telling me it was about tactics. And as much as I would have loved to follow it up, I wasn't getting anything that particular day. I already know Brian. So maybe later down the line, I just want an explanation. I want you to make it make sense. Because if you're telling me tactics, then let's talk about tactics. Because if we're looking at the three guys under Jordan Morris, if you're looking for more a defensive player because you won to be more pragmatic, defensive effort, whatever it may be, then Albert Rusnak comes out of that, out of those three, right? If you want experience, then Paul Rothrock comes out of that specific three, right? Because there's experience level of games, CONCACAF, World Cup, USMNT. There's a lot of experience that Ferreira could bring into the table. You want to talk about the dual tens, the pocket winger. who better than the guy that has 5 assists that has been running that show? You want transition moments? Who has been better in transition moments, getting the ball from particular pressing moments and turning that into good chances and goals? So you have to make it make sense. When you just tell me strategy, you have to go beyond that, because there is, I can't fathom, I cannot put it into words any particular reason why you would go with this particular lineup. I don't even know if this lineup has played together. Both Paws on the outside and Rusnak. I'm not sure. You would know this more than I do, because my memory goes on and off, the older I get. But the reality to me is that I understand people have different ways of seeing the game, and that's okay. And I'm sure that Brian Smetzer has a very good explanation for it, and that's fine. Just don't patronize me. Do not tell me rotation. Save it. Throw that con ese hueso a otro perro. Send that bone to another dog, because I'm not chewing on it. It's full of it. Ferreira has not played 90 minutes all season long. Rotation of what? There is no rotation. This is Concacaf elimination round, leg 1, where an away goal counts as 2, where an away goal puts you in the driver's seat. So when we have this narrative about Liga MX has all of this money and the salaries, and we have salary caps, and we can't get enough DPs on the field, but we're going to rest a DP talent for the first game, so then that narrative shouldn't be there, because that's the way you wanted to play it. So I just, as you can hear by this rant, I have a really hard time understanding the decision. Not to say that Brian doesn't have one. I want to hear it. I don't even know if he'll give it, because it might be too late by the time I have availability. If the Sounders go out there and win it, I'm definitely going to ask it. And even if they lose it, he might not even care to answer it. So I just wanted to get it out there. I would love to hear your take on it, because the last thing I'll say is people will sit here and tell me, well, we created chances. There were opportunities. Yes, but that doesn't mean that the quality of chances, the amount of chances, and the type of finishing could have not been better when you have your most influential player and contributor in that attacking end on the field. Maybe, and look, there is nothing wrong with looking at Paul Rothrock and saying, look, man, you've earned it, you deserve it, you've put in up a lot of goals, so we're going to start you this game. But in the same rationale, you can't sit Ferreira, because thank you, you've had 5 assists, you've been so good. So there's got to be a little bit of a consistent thought process that I'm just not quite getting. And I keep saying I'm going to end it on this, but I'm going to end it on this. If there is a guy that you are certain that can come off the bench and shoot like a rocket, it's Paul Rothrock. So if I'm looking at this game, I'm saying, look, if we might need a goal, there's got to be someone that we're going to bring off the bench to make it happen. It's not Ferreira in the 70th. That's not his game. That's not what he does. He needs to come into a game and settle and see it and assess it and start to make moments happen and link up play and all of these things. But Paul Rothrock can. That is a guarantee right there. I mean, you have the proof the size of Washington State to just know that Paul Rothrock is going to come in and perform right off the bench. So many reasons why I did not like that decision. But please, Tim, I want to hear your take.
I think first, your point that why did you leave Jesus Ferreira on the bench and start Albert Rusnak? Tactics is not an answer. Tactics is the introduction to an answer where you explain what the tactical reason was. And I think you can look at each of the guys who started, and not just in that group of 3, but you can look at each guy and sort of make a case for starting that player. Albert Rusnak, for whatever reason, it seems like they're trying to work him into the side, and he's one of your designated players. That it makes sense, but he has not been particularly effective so far this season. And, similar to Ferreira, that's not necessarily a guy who is going to be super impactful as a sub, but Paul Rothrock, I think you can understand the reasoning for starting him. He is your most productive player this season. Paul Arriola, you can see the reasoning for starting him. He's got Liga MX and CCL experience. He has been impactful in this competition so far. Like, I get it. But to your point, Jesus Ferreira is like built for this sort of scenario. And while I don't think playing him as like in the 10 spot is the best way to utilize him in this Sounders team, I think that would have made more sense. That's the group they started against Houston with, was the two Pauls and Jesus. I think that would have been a more effective approach for this game. I do think, when the lineup first came out, not seeing Jesus in there was a bit of a head scratcher, but I at least could see like, this is not a team that intends to like sit and hope for a 0-0. Like, they want to play. That didn't really, I don't know that the result is a product of that approach, but I think playing Jesus maybe gives you a higher likelihood of executing on the chances you get, maybe creating some more chances. He's a guy who we have seen him throughout the start of this season and in preseason taking creative free kicks. I think he's more likely to win a free kick than Albert Rusnak. And then in those situations, like, those are the kinds of things where, the way this game played out, I think I didn't come away thinking any particular players had necessarily a bad game, but no one had a good enough game to get something, even if that something is an away goal out of it. And you just really saw how thin the margins are in this sort of environment. And the type of talent Jesus is, the way he plays the game is such that he works in those margins. He makes the margins a little bit better, and he takes advantage of the opportunities you get a little bit differently than anyone else.
Totally agree. And I mean, look, if you're a team that is struggling to score, why remove parts of the offense that have worked for the few goals that you do have? If you go back to the game at BC Place, the Arriola, Ferreira, and even if you wanted to keep Brustak on, maybe try that lineup. That worked out. But then we're going into not having Paul Rothrock, which, again, although I know that I totally understand why you would start him. Particularly for this game, I'm thinking, well, if you're not starting him, at least you're going to have a guy to come off the bench. But let's say that you do want it, Paul. I think Paul and Ferreira have worked very well. You go back to that San Jose game, that was more of a smash and grab. The moments that Ferreira and Paul had were very good, right? That one you had Georgie Minungu on the left, but you can set it up where maybe you have, as you mentioned, both Pauls and Ferreira in the middle. Against Houston, maybe it didn't work as well as you wanted it, but you could continue to build on that, and you didn't have Jordan. But let's talk about Jordan. There's a lot of criticism out for Jordan right now. There is blood out there for Jordan out there. I mean, the fans are not happy with the performance, with all these things. I feel like we're being a little bit, and maybe unfair is the wrong word, because I get people wanted more out of that player, that DP, and all of these things that go into an old, tired narrative that we're not going to get into right now. But I don't know if I love the fact that Brian decided to make this his first start since coming back from injury. That's a tough place to just swim or drown. You know what I mean? I thought that last week, maybe you give him 45. Maybe, I know that he might have come in late against Houston, but to start him off, start him against Houston, allow him to get 45, allow to see what you could get out of him, get all that rust off, and then maybe you play him out of Volcano. I just think it's hard for me to just sit here and overly criticize Jordan, although he had a couple of bad moments, because I think that's just a lot to ask for. And maybe a lot of people are going to say, well, he's your DP, he's 30 years old, that's the reason why you do it. But I just didn't think it was the right time to necessarily start him off. That's a very tough game. And so it all goes back to, maybe if you had different players around him, I would have seen Jordan get better services. And I think that the one that sticks in my mind the most is that, I guess you call it a pressing moment, where I forget who's the Tigres defender that slips and Rusnak gets on the ball. It's almost a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1. Jordan decides to pass it out wide to Paul Arriola, where maybe the choice there is he did the right thing by cutting deeper inside. Rusnak is holding to that left side. I think if he plays him across the center back and you play Albert into the box, there's a better angle for him to shoot than maybe Arriola had. So maybe that's one where, decision making and that particular moment, it is what it is. It happens. But I know that that's one that I've seen a lot on the socials about why Jordan Morris and all of these things. But to me, once again, that has a lot to do with lack of playing time and continuity for a guy that's just getting his first start since coming back from that injury.
Yeah, I think that play in particular, Jordan could have taken it himself and shot. I agree. In the moment, I was like, he should have. It's a pretty simple pass to play to Rusnak, and Rusnak probably has an easier look. I think the decision to play Paul Arriola is a perfectly reasonable one, and Arriola should have done better on that opportunity. Like,
very fair.
That's a great opportunity, and to not turn it into a goal, hard to put that on Jordan for having had, like an A and an A- choice and choosing the A- choice. Like, they're both good choices. I also think, choosing to start Jordan maybe is easier to nitpick if either of your other forwards have been doing anything. And to a certain extent, Jordan can, as you were saying, if there are different personnel, if the other guys are finding him more, maybe he's able to do more. There's not a ton you can put on Jordan for only having gotten a handful of touches in his 70 minutes. He got out on, not necessarily on the break, but in transition or behind a couple times, and then just didn't have runners with him.
Totally.
That's, I don't know that either of the other guys that would play in that position are, one, getting those opportunities in those same spots. And, I think we saw in this game when Osaze came on, who I'm a big Osaze fan, when he got into those positions, worse outcomes happened than when Jordan did, where Jordan maybe has to hold it up because there's no runners with him, and then they recycle it and maintain possession, and Osaze got in those positions and then turned the ball over. I'm curious what you thought of some of the other lineup decisions. I liked playing Snyder alongside Christian, just in terms of, if you're going to try to get a result, having someone who can be a little bit more proactive in midfield and try to create opportunities, I think that made sense. You earlier mentioned going back to the San Jose game, which was a pure smash and grab. In hindsight, maybe starting Antino Lopez at center back and playing Alex at right back rather than Kalani would have made more sense.
Yeah, no, look, that's the two that I was looking at, right? The Snyder Burnell, I thought it made more sense, and I'm okay with Brian saying, "Look, I'd rather have a guy that is going to dribble through pressure and is going to maybe create." Or be a more impactful player in transition moments, and I'm going to allow my defense to absorb pressure. I'm going to allow Christian to be that guy that maybe has to wear and tear a little bit more and bend and not break, rather than maybe, as initially I thought maybe Brown was going to be a little bit more pragmatic, so he was going to go with Hassani Dotson. I thought he was going to go for experience and all of these things that maybe. Now looking at it, I love that he has the confidence in Snyder. I thought Snyder had a good game too. I cannot look at Snyder's game and be like that was an issue, because it wasn't. So that choice I was okay with, and that one you tittered with, like you were fine. Like, hey, well, you know what? This is what Snyder gives you. This is what Hassani gives you, and so it wasn't as big of an issue for me. The Kalani one was a tough one for me, but I saw it the way you saw it. I really like Kalani. Actually, I love Kalani. He's such a fun player. He's such an athlete. He's got dog in him. He's got grit. But if there is a particular facet of his game that needs to get better, is at times he gets really comfortable. And that happens to a lot of guys that have the athleticism, is that they get a little too comfortable with the recovery speed. So he gets really high. And you saw how often Tigres went to that left side. I mean, almost every single time that they were coming off on a break or they needed to play a direct ball, it was going to Kalani's side. And that they saw something there that I think maybe with an Alex Roldan there, you were going to have more of a defensive presence. And then the Tino Lopez playing central as a center back, man, I mean, if we're going to trust the kids and you're going to trust Snyder, why not trust Tino? I mean, Tino has proven it on the field, going stride by stride with Jaboa on a break, flying, saving kicks off of the goal line at San Jose. The guy has size, and I feel like you needed a little bit of that size, because if there was anything that this team was going to do was try to beat you over set pieces, they were going to put the ball into El Buffalo Aguirre, who didn't have a great game. And I think that size would have helped you a little bit. And I think the moments that Tigres did have, I hate to use this word, but the Sounders got a little lucky. Tigres were not at their best. Look, Anel Correa had an atrocious game. Buffalo Aguirre looked more like a llama than a buffalo. I mean, he was bad. I didn't think he was good. I really didn't. At least not where he shines, which is in the box. He had moments at times off of the box and all these things, but he just didn't have a good one. So my fear is that those moments won't come back. Bruneta didn't start this game, and you saw the difference. As soon as Bruneta came into the field, Tigres completely changed. They were so much more purposeful. They were so much more put together. So to the Tino Lopez discord, I do think that, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it would have been nice to see a guy with a little bit of a bigger frame and that ability to win more duels. No shame to Alex. He's been phenomenal, right? But you can still have that by putting him at the right back position, and then you don't have to necessarily deal with some of the moments that maybe Kalani will want back in that one. And I don't want to put the game on him at all either. I'm just saying that that's a place where you could have been a little bit better at, hypothetically speaking, of course, and with Tino Lopez at center back.
Yeah, I can understand some of the reasoning behind going with that back line that they went with, that, you are starting some young guys with Snyder, and Kalani's not young necessarily in the same way, but he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has more first division experience. Snyder has more first division experience. Tino Lopez only has a handful of MLS or CCC appearances in that environment, going to El Volcan, I can understand making those decisions. But to your point, Alex has done well and deserves a lot of credit for his ability to play that center back position. But the reality is he is still a right back being played as a center back, and he's doing a good job. But just because, you could play a corner as a linebacker, that doesn't make him a linebacker. Like, the guys who play those positions tend to play them for a reason, and that added frame and physicality makes a big difference, especially in games like this. Yeah. And I think looking at that first goal, it's tough to really put too much blame on Alex for I know I have in writing referred to it as a mistake or an error, but like the mistake or error lies in having lost the flight of the ball as he's tracking the runner. And then it hits off the back of his leg. Tigres reacts faster. Bang, bang. A couple really nice touches and moves from Tigres players. It's a fantastic goal. But I think if you've got Alex at right back and Tino at center back, Alex just isn't going to be pushed as high as Kalani was. Maybe you've got two guys tracking that initial runner rather than just Alex, and maybe that goal doesn't happen. I think, to your point, a few of the other opportunities that either don't turn into shots or the shots don't turn into goals, maybe those don't happen, and the game is a little bit more comfortable if you have a more physical presence like Tino in that spot. But I guess the flip side of that is maybe that moment is bigger than Tino is necessarily ready for, and things go worse than they did.
Yeah.
Tough to really litigate that one too differently. I think the real frustration is that, over the course of this road run of games, the kinds of mistakes that the Sounders made on the two goals that did get scored and some of the opportunities that didn't are the sorts of things they've been able to either eliminate in previous games and maybe not coincidentally with Tino Lopez, when opportunities have come, they've been able to deal with them. Mm-hmm. That first goal, it's a mistake or an error that then gets capitalized on. The second goal, that's a set piece goal. You haven't been giving those up. And if you go back and look, it seems like Osaze de Rosario just doesn't know what his assignment is, because he and Joaquim start that play together at the top of the box, and maybe Osaze is thinking it's zone rather than man, or maybe he has some freedom to ball hunt and he misreads the trajectory of the ball and he goes to position for a closer service to sort of the elbow, and the ball basically goes to the penalty spot. Joaquim makes an unobstructed run, and tough for Jackson to get the own goal, but it is an own goal. Joaquim heads the ball into Jackson and then it goes on frame. It is what it is. That's an own goal, no matter what league you're looking at. Are there any positives that you take out of this first game?
Yes, I think that regardless of the missed opportunities and what would have been a very important away goal, I feel like the Sounders come out of this game thinking maybe this team is not as good as we thought it was. And maybe we absolutely can beat this team. We created a lot of chances. Now we're at home. So I think that there is a level of confidence that maybe some of us have chances. That Paul Rothrock opportunity that I don't know how Guzman keeps between his feet, or I don't know how it happened there, but all those moments that were potential chances, even the half chances, I feel like they give this team a little bit of confidence going into the next game. I think that the physicality component was there. I don't think that they got pushed around, nothing like that. I thought that they kept up. They were competitive, and I thought the intensity was there, which is something that I wanted to look at. I thought that Paul Rothrock was good. I think that I would feel comfortable playing him again. And I think that's about it, man. I look at the lineup, and maybe Christian. It's tough for me to grade Christian because he was really good defensively. He had some moments, but there has been a very unusual amount of turnovers by Christian, which I'm not used to seeing. So we need to tidy that up. But yeah, I think that's the positives that I have.
Yeah, I think on the Christian note, it was tough because I felt like coming off of the Houston game, that was one of his best games of the season so far. When I think there have been some frustrations with his games up to this point, and often for reasons that you just pointed to, that like he is your steady hand in midfield and has had some sloppy giveaways, either bad passes or getting the ball picked off of him. But I don't think he was certainly not the only experienced veteran player who had that issue in this game. I think there were a lot of guys giving the ball up a little too easily. Yeah, I think there's plenty of, almost similar to the Club World Cup last season, where they lost the games, but they were in all of them. Like they looked like they belonged on the field. It didn't seem like there was a huge gulf of talent between these teams. The Sounders just didn't do enough with the opportunity that they had in the game. I think the one real frustration I had from the team was that, for all that I agree, I think they handled the physicality well. There was, and maybe this is particularly frustrating given how much, Paul Arriola and you and all of us have talked about Colmillo leading up to this. The Sounders just didn't seem like they were surprised at how much the CONCACAF was CONCACAFing in this game. Like I think one of the things that they'll need to address before the game this coming Wednesday is that it's pickup game rules. Like you can't ever be waiting for the ref to make a call, because the reality is he's probably not going to. Like the exceptions are, looking back to the CCL Christian eventually winning the penalty call. Same with Diego Lainez getting the penalty call in this one. Like in those opportunities, like act your heart out, do what you have to have the chance to get the call. But if it's outside of the box, anywhere in between the two 18s, if you think you got fouled, you got to keep playing until the whistle blows. Like, I think there were a few times where guys either were surprised they got called for a foul or confused that they didn't get a foul called. And if you just keep going, maybe you get an opportunity to make something happen. But that's looking forward. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back to talk about the upcoming game real quick.
Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right, in the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now. Nos Arietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDER@HEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDER@HEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
All right, we are back. We're going to talk about the upcoming game against Tigres. I think one of the big sources of encouragement for me coming into this one is that, you know, the Tigres home record in CONCACAF is absurd. It is outrageous. Something like 25 wins and 6 draws against non-Liga MX teams and 9 wins and 2 draws against MLS teams. It maybe shouldn't have been so surprising that the Sounders did not get a result going in there, although it felt like if someone was going to, the Sounders have put themselves in a position to do it. The reverse of that is Tigres have not been particularly good on the road. I think in the league, in the Clausura so far, they're like 11 goals for, 11 goals against, like 9 points from 7 games. They've lost all of their last 4 road games in all competitions. They've lost 5 of their last 6 on the road. Now, only one of those losses was a margin that would see the Sounders advance without going to penalties. But that loss was to Cincinnati, a team that I think is definitely worse than the Sounders so far.
I would agree.
Through this season. How are you feeling coming into this game?
I'm not feeling defeated or as if this game is impossible to win, because in part what you have just mentioned, I think that there, if anything out of the last game, I don't think there's anything particularly special about Tigres. You saw them just kind of go on individual play, right? Let's dump the ball to Herrera. Let's see what he does on the left side. Let's make it happen. Gorrian put some really good through balls. Can we get Angel Correa to certain areas and get him the ball? If Aguirre is not at his best, this offense looks shaky. So I think that there are ways that you can look at this last game and say, not only is this team not unbeatable, but they actually have some flaws to their game, even on offense. So when I look at this game, the biggest concern is that away goal. All Tigres has to do is put one in the back of the net. And if not game over, it's pretty close to it. So how do you manage that is difficult. And that's the reason why I'm not feeling as confident. But the fact is the Sounders have been very good defensively this season. I think at home they're going to be ready to go. I'm wondering how the field is going to play, to be quite honest. It might seem like a non-factor, but I feel like it might be a thing where, I don't know, if it might benefit Tigres more. I'm not really sure. That's something that I want to look at. But in terms of just the overall soccer components, I think that Seattle has a chance. but they have to be at their best. They have to score early, and they have to be composed the entirety of the game. You talked about the colmillo component. If there's something that I kind of, and this is going to sound bad because I know there's people that don't really like this part of the game, but when Gignac came in and tried to shake Peter Kingston like a dog, I mean, I'm trying to hit my face in his wrist, or, I'm falling off like he chopped my arm off. Maybe seeing how angry he started the game, maybe you continue to try to poke at him, so maybe he gets a red. Can you create some moments to give yourself advantages? And I know this sounds terrible because it's all about sportsmanship and all these things, but man, sometimes with CONCACAF, it's all about just putting the knife between your teeth and just trying to figure out ways to change the game. So I think the Sounders have character. I think that they have experience, but I don't think their chances are high. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm also not confident enough to say that there's a high likelihood of it. I would put it at maybe 50-50, and that's a lot because I really do think that this team can win this game, can control the tempo of the game, and could really exploit some of those gaps that they saw against Tigres in this first game. I want to get rid of two things because I know we don't have a lot of time. I know I don't. The whole discourse with Stefan Fry being the cause of the game and how he should be Andrew Thomas in, I don't get it. I'm actually confident that Steph had a good game. That save that he had in 12 minute, 11 minute, that's a big time save. I actually thought that he was good. So I do feel good about Steph being on goal in this particular game, from the leadership component, from what he can provide in distribution. So that makes me feel confident. I feel confident there in that area of the game. I think Nuhu, he comes in late in that challenge, and we don't have to go about it, but I thought he was okay, and I think he's going to be better at home. Whenever you let Nuhu do certain things and allow him to kind of settle into the game, I think he's going to have a big responsibility on that end, just to keep this Tigres team at bay. But I like it. As long as the Sounders put together a cohesive team that has played before, that has won before, and they come up with the right mentality, I think they have a shot in this game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I think 50-50 is a good way to look at it, in part because there's no reason to think that this team couldn't at least get a 2-0 win. That's the result they had in their first, their only game at Lumen so far this season. They got a 3-0 away at Vancouver. They're capable of doing it. A 2-0 gets them to penalties. That's a coin flip. Anyway, if a 3-0, certainly possible, they could do it. To your point, if Tigres gets a goal, asking them to win 4-1 is a tough ask. But yeah, I think the Sounders can do it. I think having Steph in the back does provide you that veteran experience, that leadership. Maybe that gives you the freedom to play Tino Lopez at center back and have Alex on the right. I think getting all of as much of the not necessarily experience, but the chemistry out on that field to take advantage of, they're trying to fill that stadium up as much as they can. I think, they're offering the 2 tickets and 2 beers for $45. That's a great deal to me. That's a good deal. I think the team is going to be excited to be at home. The fans are going to be excited to have them at home for the first time in basically 2 months. Maybe it's not El Volcan, but that is a stadium that if you get 30,000+ people in there and they are in it, that's a tough place for other teams to be. That's an environment that energizes the Sounders. I think they can do it, but yeah, they gotta get on Tigres early. I think bringing more of that colmillo. They've got guys who Paul Rothrock likes to mix it up. Christian likes to mix it up. Jordan has shown the ability, given the right circumstances, to be a fly in the other team's drink. Like, I don't know if I've ever made my spiel about the quote unquote dark arts to you, Niko, but I think a lot of the negative connotations about playing like that are racist, frankly, because it's a South American approach to the game rather than particularly an English approach to the game, where people often will cheer, a frankly dirty 2-footed tackle, but a guy who makes I think someone like Ozzy Alonso gets praised, and shout out to the I don't remember, mental conditioning coach or mental strength coach, Stephen Lenhart, back in his playing days, a guy who was vilified for being someone who just pissed other teams off. Like, maybe he can coach guys up for that for this one. That could help make a difference. I think that's pretty much all I've got, Niko. Do you have anything else? Where can folks find you?
Yeah, everybody can find me at El Rolo NW on Mondays, of course, with Ari Lillenwall on Love and Scorchers. On Thursdays, Soccer Down Here with John Nelson. And, of course, every Friday in my favorite show with either Jeremiah or my man Tim Foss, who rocks the boat. Really hoping that everybody shows up for this game. This is a big game. I know it's a Wednesday, but I think it'll be worth it. It's going to have a different explosiveness to it. Team needs everyone, so go ahead and show up for this team. We are sounded here, upset about the first game, but still giving this team the chance and the benefit of the doubt to go out here and be the team that came back 2-0 at Estadio Universitario in Mexico. They can get it back. They just have to be at their very best. So go out there, go show up, support, wave the flag, scarves up, absolutely everything that you can do to get this team on the path to a big game.
Yeah, the 8:30 p.m. on a Wednesday is tough, but
yes,
call in sick on Thursday.
That's right.
Whatever. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. Signing off, I am Tim Ostlund-Foss. I have been joined by Niko Moreno. We will see you all next time.
Let's go, Sounders.